Good afternoon. This is Rich Nass, Executive Vice President with Open Systems Media, and I'm here for this week's installment of 5 Minutes With. This week, I will be speaking with Jim Walsh, who is the CTO of Global Logic. Good afternoon, Jim.
Good afternoon, Rich.
Very nice to make your acquaintance, and let's jump right into this. Okay, so from what I understand about Global Logic, you guys are a product development services company. Although that might be selling you short on what you guys really do. Would you just take a minute and explain what the company actually does?
Yeah, we are a product development services company. So it's really not selling you short, but some of the things that might not be obvious from the statement is what we mean by products is something that drives the company's revenue. It's not like, a back office function, core accounting system. Those are all very important, and we help develop some of those for vendors who sell them to enterprises. But we don't focus on system integration. We don't focus on package selection. We focus on developing revenue-generating products for our customers. And then the second thing that's not really obvious about that is that a lot of companies today that you wouldn't think of as software companies or as product companies are finding that they have to act like a product company. They have to act like a Google or a Microsoft or an Adobe, even though they might be an advertising agency or a financial services company or a services division to the oil industry, a services company for the oil industry. That these very different types of companies are beginning to find, because of digital disruption, that they have to act more and more like a product company because that's where their customers are beginning to live, is online. So, yes, we're a product development services company, but it covers a lot of ground.
Okay, fair enough. You just used a phrase that I'd like you to define. The digital, what was that?
Digital disruption, yeah.
Right. So what is that?
Well, the iPhone shipped it's hard to believe, but just 8 years ago, 2007, just over 8 years ago. And the iPad shipped in 2009, just 6 years ago as we're talking here. But they completely transformed people's lives. So smartphones, them and other smart devices that shipped around the same time. And people now spend more time connected online than they do sleeping. And they spend more time with their mobile devices than they do with their spouse or their children, So the entire user base, the entire customer community has shifted from a physical world to living in a digital world. So for companies to continue to engage with their employees and also with their customers, they have to become digitally focused themselves. So that's what we mean by digital disruption, is that the world has been digitally disrupted already. That's a fact. It's already happened. And for customers to remain relevant, businesses now have to pivot to where customers live, which is online.
That's very interesting. So,
yeah, absolutely.
At what phase of the design process do you tend to get involved with a customer? Is it? Ideally, I think it would be at the very beginning. But are you often finding yourself at the point where they're pulling their hair out, where they need help?
Yeah, both ends of the spectrum, definitely. I mean, we work with a lot of startups and with a lot of large businesses that are starting new product lines where we get engaged at the concept level. So they have an idea on a whiteboard, and we work with them on the whiteboard to build that out, to apply the principles of user-centric design thinking, and design-centric development, kind of like the Apple model of that to the customer's problem. But because of this disrupted world, a lot of enterprises are finding that even though they have IT-built projects that have evolved over the years, they're not user-centric, they're not competitive in terms of being easy to engage with for their end users, and they have to completely rethink both their product strategy and even what type of business that they're in, what their business model is, who their customers are, where other customers are, how they engage with them. So we're involved more and more in that kind of we call it a productization process, though it's more of a redesign, rethinking. And then also we get involved at various other stages where companies have a product that they want to make better. So it's an enhancement thing, but certainly starting from from an idea on a chalkboard, whiteboard, to a re-implementation, to enhancement. We get engaged in all phases.
Now, we both know that engineers know everything. So how do you get them to buy into a methodology that might be different from what they're used to?
Well, it's difficult, actually, because it was actually hard for me, to tell you the truth, that I've spent my entire life doing product development at companies, like Next, Apple, Rational, a lot of kind of hardcore development-centric companies. And it took me a couple years of working with our design subsidiary Method to realize that most of the design I'd been doing is centered around product. It's product-centric design. What's the next feature? What's the next enhancement? How does it fit into our existing UI? How do we evolve the UI to make it a little more usable? And we don't go back to the users and follow them around and see how they live their lives and see when they engage with the product. That's user-centric design. And so it's a shift. I mean, for hardcore product development people like me, like for IT people, who are focused on employee stuff, we all come from a techie background. We tend to think like techies, and we tend to think in terms of our product environment. And we of course, we have the end user in mind, but coming from a point of view, a user-centric design process is really a radical shift. And so we go on that journey with the customer, and we've been through it ourselves. So it's sometimes, we get further. Sometimes we get less far, but it always informs our work.
Interesting, very interesting. But I'm afraid I have to inform you that we've used up our 5 minutes.
Okay, Rich.
That was really interesting, and I'd like to follow up on this, and I'm sure our readers would like to hear more about this as well. So that was 5 minutes with Jim Walsh, the CTO of GlobalLogic. I'm Rich Nass with Open Systems Media, and hope you have a great day, Jim.
Thanks, Rich. You too.